it's Lori from LoriStory.com. Welcome to the new Cricut Design Space. I'm so excited to show you what's all new and improved in the new Cricut Design Space. So let's take a look. First of all, when you first log into the Design Space, you're going to come up to this screen. Here's a short little video that will show you some of the highlights of the new Design Space. After you've watched the video, if you don't want the screen to come up in the future when you log in, you can just check this little box that says Do Not Show Again, and then click Done. This brings you to the Make It Now projects and where you will go to start a new project. The Make It Now projects are just as it says. They're projects that are all set up, ready to go for you. All you do is click on one. It takes you immediately to a description, instructions, the materials you will need to make that project. And if you decide to make it, you just hit Make It Now. And it takes you right to the cutting mats. It's as simple as that. Super, super quick. There's also a new feature here in the cutting mats where you can now go through the mats and start wherever you want when you're ready to cut. If I want to start on this red mat, I can. If I want to start on this mat, I can. We'll go into that more in depth later in another video, but this is a really neat new feature that they have. So let's click out of this. You can also, in the Make It Now projects, click on Customize. And this will bring all the pieces up on your mat so that if you want to go in and change the colors of the Make It Now projects or change the size or customize it in whatever way, you do have that option as well. Okay, so let's go to Create New Project. And this brings you up to the design area. This is the mat where you design. This looks somewhat similar to the old Design Space. However, what's new is this panel over here, and you're going to love it. So let's take a look at some of the changes in Design Space. First of all, one little trick that people often ask about is how to get the grid lines on your mat. If you want the grid lines, you just click this little square right here in the corner. And you click it to toggle the grid lines on, click it again, and they're off. So if you prefer the grid lines for lining things up, just click that little box. Okay, one of the first changes I want to show you in Design Space is in this tab right here. This is the Insert Image tab. When you click on this, you're taken to the Cricut Library. And as you can see, the library has totally changed from the former Cricut Design Space. I love the new features. First of all, over here we have the selection that I have, which is the smaller icons. You can click on this button if you want to see larger icons. You have this button here, which is your filters. You can say, I want to look up my images. I just want to look up images that I've uploaded. I just want to see free images. I just want to see images that are in the subscription. I just want to see purchased images, and so on. You can type in here what you're looking for. So let's say we're looking for a heart, and I want just hearts that are in the subscription. So that's one way to find your images. Let's delete that. You also have some ways to filter images over here. You can go by categories, and here you have featured. That's free this week, most popular, recently added. We have the categories, achievements, animals, wildlife, anniversary, all kinds of categories you can go into to find a specific image. And they have this new brand, and if you're just looking for Disney images, you can just click on Disney. If you want to just say you want to find, if you were just looking for Anna Griffin images, you can click on Anna Griffin. And you can see how responsive and fast this new library is. I really love it. So for our demonstration, I'm going to go to All Images, and I'm just going to grab a flower. And I'm just going to grab that one, and we'll hit Insert Images. I just want to have something on the mat here so that I can show you the other buttons. Okay, on the top we have File, which is File. Under that you have Make It Now, which will take you just to the Make It Now projects. We have New, which is to start a new project. We have My Projects. This will take you to any of your saved projects. And then we have Save As. If you want to say I wanted to save this flower file as I have it set up, I can hit Save As and name it. We have the Save button. We have the Undo, Redo button. That's Undo, Redo. The next button we have is Cut, which is the same as Delete. If you cut something, it deletes. Let's hit Undo. We have the Copy button. You copy it. You paste it. Now we have two. We have Select All. That selects everything on the mat. We have Arrange, and that tells us where in the Layers panel we want it. Do we want to move this one on top of this one? We can hit Arrange, move forward, or move to front if we want it on the very top of all the layers. And now this flower is on top. And then we have the Go button. This button is where you, once you have your project set up, you will hit Go. And we will go into this in more depth later, but this will take you to your printing screens. Now let's talk about the Layers panel over here. This first tab is Layers, and this will show you what is on your mat. You can see we have two groups here. We have Flower 1 and Flower 2, and you can tell which one is selected. When we select it, this is highlighted, so that's this flower. Select this one, and this one is highlighted. The other thing we can see in this menu is that there is a shadow layer that is turned off. We can turn that on just by clicking on the eye, and now we have a shadow layer behind there. Okay, if you also in the Layers panel, if you look down here on the bottom, we have the Ungroup and Regroup. So if we have an object selected and we hit Ungroup, what has happened is now this flower is all different pieces. And you can see in the Layers panel, it is no longer Flower 1 grouped together like this. Each layer has its own, or each object has its own layer. Okay, if we want to put that back together, and I want that like that, I'm just going to leave that shadow layer out, and I can select all of those, and I can hit Group. And now my flower is back grouped together in one section in the Layers panel. Okay, we also have Delete. We can select the shadow layer that we don't want any longer, and we can just hit Delete and throw that in the trash. We also have Duplicate. Duplicate is much like Copy and Paste up here. However, it saves a step for one. So I can hit Duplicate, and it's going to duplicate that without copy, paste, copy, paste. On the other hand, if I go up here and I hit Copy, and then I go over here and maybe I want to ungroup this, and then I want to go back and I want to paste, I can paste that after the fact. It remembers it. So it's different. This duplicate is different in that once you copy something, until you paste it or delete it or do something with it, it's still in the Cricut Design Space memory, where here, when you duplicate something, it's instant. It's going to happen right now. Whether you hit paste or not, it's going to duplicate it. So let's undo those last couple. Okay, so there's a few other items in here in the Layers panel. Here we have the Weld feature. Let's grab this flower, let's ungroup it, and say we want to weld just for silliness. Let's take this and let's duplicate it. Okay, and say we want these two flowers to be hooked together in one piece. We're going to make a border, let's say. So we can put those two flowers together where they're touching, and we can hit Weld. And now you see those two layers are now one layer. It's one image. It moves as one, and they're welded together. Now what if we wanted to cut this leaf out of here? Let's take this leaf, whoops, select the leaf, go Arrange, move to front, and we can put this leaf on top of this image. Okay, and now we can use this button, which is Slice. Slice only works with 2 layers. Whenever you're slicing something, you can only have 2 layers highlighted here. That's very important. So if we hit Slice right now, we have just cut this leaf out of that flower. We can try it again with this. Let's put this on the top layer, arrange, move to front. We can put this flower on top of that shadow layer. We can select both. Make sure we have 2 layers selected, we do, and slice. And then we have to pull the piece that we sliced off of there. And now we just made an outline of that flower. So that is the Slice and Weld button. Get rid of what we've done. And I just have this flower here, and it's all ungrouped. Now if I just left it as is, and I hit go, this is what we have. We have the black layer, we have the green layer, we have the pink layer. They are all intact, okay? Now I want to show you what attach does. If I were to take this pink part of the flower and I were to attach it to the black stem, so I have to have both layers selected, the pink layer and the black stem, and I hit attach. Okay, now let's see what happens when we hit go. Can you see what happened? That pink layer is now going to be cut right out of the black layer because I attached it to the black layer. And now the only other layer we have now is the green. So let's undo. Whoops. I'm going to undo. So now it's not attached. We have this layer, we have this layer, and this layer. I can still, let me move this to the front. I can still line these up like this. I'm going to move this one to the front. And I'm just right clicking to move it to the front. You can also use the arrange button at the top. But now if I hit go, let me get rid of those. Okay, now if I hit go, even though this looks like it did when I had this attached, if I hit go, again, you're going to see we now have 3 layers. And you see that flower is not getting cut out of the black because it is not attached to the black. So that's where attach comes into play. It's also what you use to attach text to an object, and we'll go into that in the edit video. So that's basically what this attach button does. The next button we have is flatten. What does flatten do? Well, if we select everything in this flower, and we can see we have it all selected in the layers panel, and we hit flatten, look what just happened. All those layers became one layer and it automatically went to print. So if we were to hit go, we're now going to get a print then cut image. It's one layer, there's only one mat here, and it's going to print this on your printer, and then you're going to cut it. Okay, so let's undo that flatten. And that leaves us one more button, which is contour. If you click on an image and you click on contour, what this does is show you in dark purple outline anything that you can turn off. Say I want to cut this petal of this flower, but I don't want this inside image to be cut. What I can do is click on it and hover my mouse over it until it highlights like that. Click on it, and then when I click off, now I do not have those inside pieces cut out. So now the flower is going to print like that. So let's undo, undo, undo. Okay, you see the difference? Okay, so I'll show you one more time. This is the flower. If you do not want the inside to cut, you hit the contour button. You highlight it, click on it, click off of it, and that hides the contour. So I'm going to undo that. The next panel we have is the edit panel. And I don't know about you, but when I'm using Design Space, I like to see the layers panel and the edit panel both. I go back and forth working in both. So one little handy trick that you can do is grab the edit panel, pull it down, and you can set it right here. So now we have the edit panel and the layers panel both in sight at all times. Okay, I am going to select both or all of this image, and I'm going to group it back together. I want to resize this image, and I want to make sure all the pieces get sized together, so we need it grouped together. This is what we can do in the edit panel. Say I want this flower to be 5 inches tall. I can just go over here in the edit panel, highlight the, whoops, that's the width, we want the height. Highlight the height and type in 5.00 and enter. And now my flower is 5 inches tall. Let's see. If we go over here and measure top, it's 5 inches. You can see it on the grid. Okay, you'll notice this little lock here. What that does is if I put 5 inches in the height and that lock is on, it's a keep proportions. It locks the proportions into place. So even though I put it at 5 inches, it's going to determine what width it needs to be to keep this flower proportionate. If I were to unlock this and then put in, say I wanted a 7-inch high flower, it's just going to keep it just the same width it was, but it's going to make it 7 inches, and you can see how it's kind of disproportionate. So let's undo, let's lock it, and then put 7 inches in, and I'll show you the difference. So that's the lock proportions button. This button is the rotate button. You can rotate this flower by, if you know exactly how far you want to rotate it, you can hit 45, and that's going to rotate it 45 degrees. We can hit undo. You can also rotate by using this button right here, and that's a freehand rotate. If you hold your shift key, it will rotate 45 degrees. You can also mirror. If you vertically mirror this flower, it's just going to flip it the other direction. If you horizontally, or I'm sorry, that was horizontal mirror. If you flip vertically, you're going to turn it upside down. And you can use the little icons here to show you the difference. And let's get it back to where it was. Okay, so now the next thing we have is the position. This is your X and Y coordinate, and this is telling me that my X coordinate is at 3.62, which means this side of the flower is at 3.62 inches on my mat. And the Y coordinate is 1.39, which means the top of this image is at 1.39 inches. So say I wanted this to be, I'm going to put this at a specific place on my mat. So say I want it right at 5 inches. So right at 5 inches, it's going to start on my mat at the 5-inch line. So what that did was put it on my working area right here at 5 inches. So what this is handy for is if you have multiple images and you want to line them up. So say I wanted these two lined up perfectly. If I click on this image, I see the Y coordinate is at 1.56, which means it's 1.56 inches from the top of the mat. So I can click on this one and I can change the Y coordinate to 1.56. And now those two are perfectly in alignment with each other. Or if I wanted to perhaps put this flower right on top of this one, I can do that. I can click on this and it's 1.4 on the X and 1.56 on the Y. So I can do this. 1.4 on the X and 1.56 on the Y, and now those two are perfectly on top of each other. So that's the edit panel. The next panel we have is the sync panel. So if we click on sync, what this allows us to do is see how many colors we have going in our mat. And if I wanted to perhaps make the stem be the same color as the green leaf, all I have to do is grab the stem and pull it up to the green leaf. And now my flowers are all the same color. You can hit undo. Maybe I want my flower petals to be green. I can pull those down, pull the pink down to the green, and now my flower is the same color. So that is the sync panel. Now the last panel we have is the canvas panel. This is a great feature, and I myself have to admit I forget to use it. I forget that it's there, but it's really handy to use. And what this is used for is there are, in this button right here, set canvas, there are tons of templates in here. And these won't cut, they won't print. They aren't for anything other than for your use when you're designing something. So say I wanted to make a scoop neck t-shirt, iron-on vinyl, and I wanted to have this flower on it. Let's zoom out a little bit, and you do that right here in the bottom corner. Okay, so what this has given me is a t-shirt template. And again, it's not going to cut this, it's not going to do anything, but it's for my use in saying, wow, I want a flower to be, oh, about that big on my shirt. And this is the front of the shirt, and this is the back. Now, if you go over here in the canvas panel, there's options here with this shirt. This is a approximate size of a woman's short sleeve extra small shirt. So it's giving me that as a guideline when I'm sizing this flower to say, okay, if you're making a woman's short sleeve extra small shirt, it's going to be about this size in relationship, and maybe your flower's a little bit too big, or maybe you just want a little flower over here on the side. So I would make it about that big. However, if I wanted a woman's extra large shirt, now my flower looks kind of small, so I can resize it accordingly. So that's what the canvas panel is. You can also say I'm working on this women's extra large t-shirt, and I'm going to put it on a purple shirt. So I want to see how my flowers look. Will that look okay on a purple shirt? Or maybe I want to put it on an orange shirt, or maybe I want a green shirt. So you can change some options in your template, and it's purely for your designing. It's purely so that you can kind of size things and see how you want them. It's not going to cut this, it's not going to do anything. Some of the templates have width and height if you were doing a card template. Thanks so much for joining me in this video. I will be doing future videos that will go more in depth into the upload images, the insert images, adding text. We will discover more ways to use the layers panel and the sync panel and all the buttons that go with each of those. So stay tuned. If you enjoyed this video, be sure and give me a thumbs up, and thanks for watching.